My name is Chelsie Diane, and I'm a poet at Poems and Peonies. My interest in poetry began when I was a little girl. I I started writing as a way to disappear from my life. I was raised in a super fundamentalist Christian household, and antiquated things were considered holy. So I was allowed to read old things, old books, old poetry, but I wasn't allowed to read modern books. And so I would go to antique auctions on my farm road, and I would get the free boxes of old books and devour them, starting at like age 5 and 6. And I would try to write in the margins of them, and I still have them all, actually. So I've been writing poetry since I could write. No. Because for me, poetry is life. Poetry is our deepest depths of feeling. It's that place that we all have inside of us too. It's the pearl. It is the life inside of us. And if you dig deep enough to reach it, and you pull it out and you hold it up in front of your eye, everybody will recognize it. But you have to dig deep enough to pluck out that pearl, or it's not poetry. But if you do and you hold it up, then everybody will say, "Me too, me too, me too. I see, that's in me, that's in me. I feel that." So yeah, no, there's no life without poetry, and there's no poetry without fully living your life. I have this tattoo on my arm that says "For the Poetry," and it's why I do everything I do. When I'm thinking, like, should I talk to this person? Like last week I was in Paris and I was sitting at the bar and I was like, should I talk to this man who's worked here for 40 years? And I looked down at my wrist and I'm like, for the poetry, the poetry demands that we live fully. And so, yeah, no, I don't think that you can have one without the other. My first real break. My first real break where I thought I could make a living out of doing this, I gave to myself. It was permission that I finally gave to myself. I had this relationship in Oklahoma City. And it was just a few years ago. And I was going back this long distance relationship. And I was sitting in his living room realizing I don't belong here. And that it was kind of a repeat of a life that I had just climbed out of, from a marriage I just climbed out of. And I said, I'm leaving. And I went to a hotel and I flew out early the next morning. And on the plane, I called my web developer friend and I said, by the time I land, I want a web page up. I want to start teaching. I want to start putting myself out there, and I want to make a living from this. And I believe that I can do that. And he said, okay. And by the time I landed, I didn't have a boyfriend anymore. And I had a career. I had, just put out a message that I want to teach a class. And all these women said, yeah, I'm here for it. And that was my first break. Just deciding one day, this isn't the road that I want to be on. This is. And just giving myself permission and getting on it. And it all happened within an hour. And my entire world changed. And I started traveling the world and teaching a class every single month this year. I've went to a different country and taught a class from all over the world. And just attracted this community of incredible women poets and people who don't consider themselves poets yet, and just women gathering to tell their truth. And I'm watching it heal them and expand them. And yeah, it has done the same for me. The most unbelievable story is that I was a married, stay-at-home mom of 3 children, doctor's wife in Kansas City, Missouri, that had built a 3-bedroom house, that one day decided that I just had this thought that either I would jump off this hotel balcony where my husband at the time had a medical conference, and I was standing actually outside on this balcony, and I had this thought that either I would jump or I would write a poem every single day, no matter what, for a year. And it's the craziest fucking thought I've ever had in my life, that it would save my life. And I thought, might as well try it. And I came back inside and I wrote a poem. I hadn't written it for years at this point. I was pretty much almost completely dead. My soul was dead. And I started writing a poem every single day for a year. And I ended up falling madly in love, not with my husband. And I ended up getting a divorce, and I ended up moving to California with my 3 children. And I ended up just creating an entirely new life for myself. And I was freelancing and screenwriting, and then that turned into this life that I have now, doing exactly what I love. And it all started from the poetry, accessing my deepest truth, my deepest layers of subconscious dreamscape, and pulling it out like that pearl I was talking about and holding it in front. And then all these women saying, me too, me too, me too. So yeah, that's the most unbelievable story. And that all happened within 6 months. I was in LA. I had moved here and had filed for divorce, writing a poem every single day for a year. So that's the most unbelievable story, I think. You know, the funny thing is I believe that my higher self, I have this belief that my higher self has been doing this my whole life, going back in time and telling younger Chelsie what the next right step is. It's almost like I feel like I have this poem that talks about how I am, I've become the woman that I needed when I was younger. I've become her who I needed to save me. And, in a way, it's made me grateful for every single thing I've lived, including the trauma, because it has made me be able to be who I am for all these women. But yeah, it felt really lonely, except for this voice, my higher self, that I believed has come back and would give me messages like, my knowing would say things like, apply to med school. This will get you free. And so I did. And so I got in. And at 18, and I left the house. And then after 4 years, I was to a place where I was like, I don't want to be a doctor. So year 4 medical school, I quit medical school and I went back and got degrees for English Lit. And something in me told me to do that, and then get a degree in, creative writing and Brit Lit. And all of this led up to what I teach now, which is, the neurobiology and science of subconscious dreamscape and creativity, and poetry. And so, and the crux of that is where my passion lies. And so I think that I've always been going back in time and telling, younger Chelsie exactly where she needed to be and exactly what she needed to do. And sometimes she didn't always follow it. I wanted to run on my wedding day and I didn't. But these babies that I have, I'm so grateful that they're there here, and those exact babies wouldn't be here if I didn't. So, but there are, I have no regrets. I feel like all of it is for the poetry. So I've been telling myself, like nudging myself, my knowing has all throughout my life, do this. And sometimes at the time I think, why? But always when I follow it, I look back and I think, oh, that was why. Mm. Oh, you know, um, creativity to me is just allowing whatever God is to you, the universe, an old dog, magic, um, whatever that is, that life force to flow through your vessel, to be open enough and clear enough in your truth, whatever that truth is, just to allow it to flow through. There's been times when I didn't write the poem that source was wanting to give me, and because I was distracted or busy. And the next day I wake up and, my friend Amy, who lives across the world, wrote the exact poem. So that's what I believe about creativity. I believe that it is constantly, it's just like this waterfall of inspiration pouring on us. And if we block it, then it'll just pour on someone else and go through someone else. So it's just up to us to be an open vessel for it. And I believe that the way that we stay an open vessel is just being aligned in our own truth, whatever that is. So yeah, poetry is just the telling of everything that makes me come alive. So poetry is exactly what you just said. You do the thing that makes you come alive. And when I'm out in the world every single day, that's what I ask myself. I'm like, does this make me expand in my middle? Does this person that I'm eating lunch with make me feel like I'm expanding? Or does it make me contract? And it's a fuck no for everything that makes me contract. And so then I'm in the place in alignment for poetry to come to me, for feeling to come to me. I don't run away from pain. And I also don't only seek pain for my art. I used to think that that was the only place that I could draw inspiration. And it's not true. It's the lie that's killed all the greats. It's why, Plath put her head in an oven and Sexton killed herself in the car and Hemingway blew out his brains. And it's a lie. And we can draw from joy too. But we have to draw from both, to be honest, because both exist. And both are in the path of the person who's fully living. So, yeah, I believe that I seek the thing that makes me feel most alive. And sometimes it's not joy. Sometimes it is pain. And I'm here for all of it.